"You must be crazy," he answered when she asked if Martin could marry his daughter. "How could you imagine that a Tsar would allow his daughter to marry a peasant?"
"But my son is the kindest and smartest young man in the whole world. He would make any wife proud," she answered.
"Well, he may be smart, he may be kind, but I'll tell you this. A man who wants to marry the daughter of a Tsar must send beautiful and expensive gifts. Go away, old woman. Return when you can bring gifts of this kind. Then maybe we'll talk again."
The Tsar knew that a simple peasant would never be able to provide these beautiful gifts, so he thought this would be the end of the problem. However, when Martin's mother returned home and told her son, he immediately used the magic ring to produce cloth made of gold, jewels, fine clothes, and many other fine gifts. He then sent his mother back to the palace with these wonderful things. The riches brought by Martin's mother amazed the Tsar, but he was also upset, as he did not want his daughter to marry this young man. He repeated that it was impossible for a Tsar to consider marrying his daughter to a peasant. "But I've done as you asked," cried the mother. "You promised me that we would discuss the marriage if I brought these gifts." The Tsar didn't know what to do and was quite worried. Then the Prime Minister spoke. "My dear Tsar, may I make a suggestion?" "Certainly, Prime Minister," answered the Tsar, hoping for a way out of this mess. "Thank you. If, as this woman says, her son really is the smartest young man in all the world, then he must build a beautiful palace next to yours for his wife to live in. And he must build a bridge of pure silver, with apple trees on either side, with fruit of silver and gold. He must also build a great church for the couple's wedding. I suggest that if this woman's son is smart enough to do this, he can marry your daughter. If not, both mother and son should lose their heads." The Tsar happily agreed, and told Martin's mother that her son must produce these things by the next morning, or they would lose their heads. Martin's mother rushed home with this news, thinking that they would surely die. But Martin wasn't worried. That night he went to the Tsar's palace, took off his ring, and produced everything that the Prime Minister had asked for. The next morning the Tsar woke up and went outside to greet the day. When he stepped into his garden, he was amazed. There in front of him stood a beautiful shining palace, a bridge with trees of silver and gold apples, and a great church. The Tsar knew then that he had to agree to the marriage, and preparations began in the palace. The Tsarevna and Martin were dressed in the finest clothes, and a beautiful marriage ceremony took place in the great church. For days afterward, there were wonderful celebrations at the palace. The young couple then began to live together as man and wife in their palace next to the Tsar's. But the Tsar's daughter wasn't happy. She was silly and proud, and very angry that her father had married her to a simple peasant. She wanted to get rid of her husband, and tried everything to find out what his secret was, always asking him questions in her sweetest voice. "You're so smart, my husband, but you're such a mystery, too. How are you able to do all these wonderful things? Won't you tell your loving wife?" But nothing worked. Martin never forgot what the Snake Tsar's daughter had told him, and he never gave away his secret. Finally, one night, his wife thought of a new and better idea. She put extra vodka in his cup at dinner, and she filled his cup until he was very drunk. She then kept him talking until he finally told her all about the magic ring. As soon as he was asleep, she took the ring from his finger and used it to take herself, the palace, the bridge, and the church away to a faraway tsardom, leaving Martin lying alone in their bed.